Hello everyone, am I audible and visible? Let me know. Then we'll start. Fine. Okay. I think I'm audible. Fine. Hello everyone, welcome to my class. Okay. Sorry. I myself Dr. Deepthi Karya, I'm MD PhD Physiology and I'm your faculty for Physiology. Before starting my class, today's class, that is phases of salivary secretion. Okay, today we'll discuss the topic phases of salivary secretion. Before starting my class, I have few announcements. One of the announcement is, if you wish to get notes of all my topics which we are going to discuss here, you can get soft copy as well as hard copy of all the notes. For soft copy, you have to download the application Vesalius. This application, this is the logo of the application and this is the application that is available on Play Store, and you can download it. Download is free and you can subscribe. Okay. Second thing is, if you wish to get hard copy for the same, you have to get the hard copy that is available on Flipkart as well as on the Amazon. Link for the Flipkart and Amazon as well as link for the application, they all are there in the description box. Okay, now let us start the topic. So today we'll discuss about one of the important topic, phases of salivary secretion. Okay, so salivary secretion is in 5 stages. Okay, salivary secretion is in 5 stages. Normally this 3 stages are found. Okay, so first of all, let us enumerate all the stages or all the phases of salivary secretion. One, that is cephalic or cephalic phase. Second one, that is buccal phase, when the saliva is secreted with the presence of food in the mouth. Third, that is esophageal phase. Hello Ali, welcome to my class. Fourth, that is gastric phase, and 5 is intestinal phase. Now we will discuss one by one. Starting with first one is cephalic or cephalic phase. Okay, here you can say that saliva secretion starts before the food is there in the mouth. Here food is not there in the mouth. Okay, and saliva is secreted. Fine. Now, so what is the reason for secretion of saliva before food is there in the mouth? I'll just explain you. Suppose if you are thinking about your favorite food, suppose you are sitting in the class and you thought that your mother will prepare your favorite dish today. So what happens? You have salivary secretion. So you can say that this is conditioned reflex. Conditioned reflex means this is learned reflex. Here what happens? Because of thought. Okay, so thinking about the food, thought, that is one thing. Second thing, that is smell. Okay, hearing about the food or vision. If you see the food, this all are the stimuli. They reach to the center which is responsible for the salivary secretion. So this is, you can say that, conditioned reflex. Why conditioned? Because it is learned one. Learned one means that you must know the taste of the food, then only you can have salivary secretion. Okay, because suppose the food you don't like, then you don't have the salivary secretion. By thinking about the food or by having smell or hearing or anything else, that results in salivary secretion by conditioned reflex. This conditioned reflex means it is learning. For example, suppose if a baby is newborn and if you give or if you place a food in front of the baby, that smell will not produce salivation in that newborn baby. Why? Because this learning is absent. So learning is must, that is very important. Okay, second thing is buccal phase. Buccal means now the food is there in your mouth, oral cavity. Okay, so when food is there in the oral cavity, these buccal receptors, they are stimulated and they produce salivary secretion. This is unconditioned reflex, means here we need not require learning. Why learning is not required? Suppose in newborn baby also, if you put a drop of honey, then there is salivary secretion. So that is the rule. Food in the mouth and salivary secretion. Fine. Then third is, you can see this one is esophageal stage. Here esophageal stage means when the food passes from mouth to the esophagus. This also increases the secretion of saliva. Okay, so this is esophageal stage. Next is gastric phase. In gastric phase, there is stimulation of salivary secretion if the food is irritant in the stomach. Means if suppose you have irritant food in the stomach and it is not digested and you have vomiting sensation, so before vomiting your salivary secretion increases. Fine. So this is your gastric phase. Okay, now that is fourth phase. Okay, cephalic phase, then buccal phase, esophageal, gastric phase, and last one, that is intestinal phase. This is also not going to produce salivary secretion every time when the food is in the intestine, but if here the food is irritant, okay, irritant food, that results in the vomiting sensation and that results in the increased salivary secretion. Now very important part we are coming, that is nerve supply to the salivary glands. We all know that there are major three pairs of salivary glands, okay, parotid, submandibular and sublingual. Okay, now, so here important thing is the nerve fibers. Nerve fibers, when they are stimulated, they increase salivary secretion. So these nerve fibers are known as secretomotor nerve fibers. Means they increase salivary secretion. Okay. Mainly fibers are parasympathetic nerve fibers. I will explain in detail. Okay. Very important part of the salivary secretion. Fine. So here you can see parasympathetic nerve fibers. This parasympathetic nerve fibers, for that the centers for the parasympathetic nerve fibers, they increase salivary secretion. The centers are located in lower part of the pons and upper part of the medulla. This is medulla. Okay, so they are located in lower part of the bones, here pons and medulla. Fine. Now, and these are the salivary centers which are located here. Fine. Now this fibers, parasympathetic fibers, they originate from this salivary centers. Now which are the salivary centers? Important one, they are named as superior and inferior salivatory nucleus. Try to remember this. Okay, fibers originate from this. You can see this is superior, this is inferior salivatory nucleus. Okay, now when this salivatory nucleus and parasympathetic nerves are stimulated, what happens? There is increased salivatory secretion, and second thing is there is vasodilatation. Blood vessels of the salivary glands are dilated. Okay, when blood vessels are dilated, what happens? Blood flow increases and salivary secretion also increases. Fine. Now, which neurotransmitter that is involved in the salivary secretion? Very important one is acetylcholine. You can see here, because acetylcholine is an important neurotransmitter of parasympathetic nerve fibers. Fine. Parasympathetic nerve fibers, they have acetylcholine as neurotransmitter. Very important thing here, in neuromuscular junction we have discussed the receptors for the acetylcholine, that is nicotinic receptor. Okay, nicotinic receptor. But here you can see receptors are muscarinic receptor. What is the mechanism of action? We will discuss. Okay, so that is one neurotransmitter, acetylcholine. Second one, that is vasoactive intestinal peptide. Okay, so these two are important neurotransmitter for the secretion of saliva. Okay, fine. Another thing is when sympathetic nerves are also stimulated, there is small amount of salivary secretion, but here the secretion is thick, viscous and in small amount. Fine. Okay, fine. Now, so you can see here, always salivary secretion that is regulated by autonomic nervous system. There are various reflexes in the autonomic nervous system. They regulate salivary secretion. Very important point here. Other digestive gland secretion, other digestive gland we will discuss in detail, like your pancreas, like your gastric glands and so many glands. Okay, digestive gland secretions, they are regulated by two ways. Number one is nervous regulation and second one, that is hormonal regulation, but for salivatory secretion there is no hormonal regulation. Mainly that is regulated by nervous regulation. You can see here in the medulla oblongata and pons there are the centers from which nerve fibers they start and they regulate salivary secretion. Now we'll start how the nerve fibers they originate. We'll discuss. You can see here. Okay, this is the good example. You can see starting with your parasympathetic control. As we have discussed, we have three pairs of salivary glands. Parotid, you can see here, this is one gland. Parotid, submandibular here, and sublingual gland. Fine. Now, this is parotid gland. So, parotid gland, for that parotid gland, they are supplied with the parasympathetic nerve fibers. Okay, this nerve fibers, they are, you can see, these are autonomic nerve fibers. Very important thing here is when we are talking about autonomic means sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers, they have ganglion. As you all know, what is ganglion? Can anyone tell me? Ganglion, that is collection of cell bodies outside the central nervous system. Okay, you can see here, this is medulla, sorry, pons and medulla. So outside here we have this ganglion. You can see here, this are, okay, this is aortic ganglion, this is submandibular ganglion. Fine, I'll just explain you again. Fine, so this are your ganglion. Okay, so here in sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves we have preganglionic fibers. Preganglionic means, suppose this is your medulla and pons, so this fibers originating from pons and medulla, they are known as preganglionic fibers. Then they end in the ganglion, from which postganglionic fiber, this is ganglion. Ganglion is nothing but the cell body, and these are post ganglionic fibers. Now here first of all we are talking about parotid gland here, this one. So parotid gland also has, you can see, preganglionic and postganglionic fibers. I'll just show you this black one, this one. Okay, so preganglionic fibers, they originate from inferior salivatory nucleus here, this one. This is inferior, this is superior. This is superior upper one, inferior lower. So this fibers originate here, preganglionic fiber. This inferior salivatory nucleus is also known as nucleus of ninth cranial nerve. Ninth one, that is your glossopharyngeal nerve. And this preganglionic fibers, they end in the ganglion. Name of the ganglion, if you can remember, that is otic ganglion, from which postganglionic fibers arise, and this nerve which is arising from the otic ganglion, this is known as auriculotemporal nerve. Okay, and they supply your parotid gland here. Fine. So this is your parasympathetic control. Now, so this is about, we discussed about parotid gland. Now if we discuss about submandibular gland, you can see here, sorry, this one. So you can see here, this your submandibular and sublingual ganglion, the fibers, they originate from, I'll just show you this one, superior salivatory nucleus, this one, preganglionic fiber. I'll just show with different colors so it becomes easy for you to this, I think green color. Okay, fine. So first of all I'll erase all the links. Fine. Now you can see here, superior salivatory nucleus, this one. Okay, superior salivatory nucleus, other name for superior salivatory nucleus is nucleus for seventh cranial nerve. Easily you can remember. Okay, submandibular, there is S, submandibular gland. Okay, mandibular gland. Okay, which nucleus? Superior, that is also S, superior salivatory nucleus, and seventh cranial nerve. Okay, so all are S, superior salivatory nucleus, seventh cranial nerve, and submandibular ganglion. So this way you can remember all the three are S. Okay, fine. So now let us discuss here. You can see submandibular and sublingual gland. So preganglionic fibers, they originate from superior salivatory nucleus here. Okay, then they pass. Superior salivatory is the nucleus of seventh cranial nerve. This preganglionic fibers, they run in the nervous intermediates, that is sensory division of the seventh cranial nerve, and they join the facial nerve and leave by the chorda tympani branch. You can see here, this is the chorda tympani. So this will now go in the ganglion. Okay, and these are post ganglionic fibers. They supply your submandibular and sublingual gland. Easy to remember. I'll again repeat. I'll just show you again. You can see, if we are talking about submandibular and sublingual gland, okay, nucleus is S again, superior salivatory nucleus. Okay, and that is the nucleus of again S, seventh cranial nerve. Okay, fine. So these are the fibers they supply. Fine. Again, this is the same thing. Now we'll discuss that how this is controlled. Okay, so here, nervous regulation, how this secretion is controlled. Okay, so it is controlled by two ways. Number one is conditioned reflex, other is unconditioned reflex. As I told you, conditioned reflex, for conditioned reflex, learning is must. You must know the test. Okay, so for that, you can say that suppose if you have thought about the food, okay, particular food which you like, if you have smell of the food, okay, if you have heard about the food, or if you see the food, all these impulses, these are all conditioned stimuli. These impulses, they pass from all these areas. Thought means from cerebral cortex. Okay, smell, so that is from nose. Okay, hearing, that is from ear. Smell, they all go to the hypothalamus. From hypothalamus, they will go to the superior and inferior salivatory nucleus, which is present in the pons, lower pons and medulla. Okay, and then there is the nerve fibers. Okay, seventh and ninth cranial nerve, they supply your parotid and submandibular gland, and there is salivatory secretion. So you can say that that is unconditioned reflex. Fine. So this is one way of the control of the secretion. Next way is unconditioned reflex. Unconditioned means when food comes in your mouth, you have salivatory secretion. Okay. Now, what is the way here for salivatory secretion? Salivary secretion. What is the way that you have salivary secretion? Okay, when the food is there in the mouth. So first way, that is mechanoreceptors. Okay, whenever food is there in the mouth, there are tactile stimuli. Tactile stimuli, they come from the tongue, from the mouth, from the pharynx and all other areas. Okay, oral cavity. These impulses are transmitted because of the presence of food in the oral cavity, because of the movement, because of the chewing movement, because of the irritation. All these are the stimuli. Okay, and these afferent fibers, they pass through fifth cranial nerve, that is, this is not shown here, trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve, it has got lingual branch, buccal branch, palatine branch. So all the stimuli, they pass through this nerves. Okay, as well as some of the fibers, they pass through pharyngeal branches of 10th cranial nerve, that is vagus and glossopharyngeal nerve. So these are the afferent fibers. Okay, so first afferent, they are by mechanoreceptors. Second afferent, they are by chemoreceptors. You can see here, these are chemical receptors. Okay, we have taste buds. Taste buds are present in the papillae of the tongue. Okay, so whenever you place the food, and whenever this food particles, they mix with the saliva and they are on the tongue, what happens? These taste buds are stimulated, and afferent fibers, they are transmitted from anterior two-thirds of the tongue by 7th cranial nerve, this one, and posterior one-third of the tongue, afferent fibers are transmitted by 9th cranial nerve. Here 7th and 9th cranial nerve. Okay, these fibers, they are afferent fibers. Okay, they carry information to the salivary nucleus. Okay, and again, when salivary nucleus is getting afferent, then this salivary nucleus passes efferent fibers, and these efferent fibers, again, we have already discussed, from superior salivatory nucleus, you can see here, through seventh cranial nerve that will go to submandibular and sublingual gland, and inferior salivatory nucleus, the fibers will go through your ninth cranial nerve to the aortic ganglion, and that supplies parotid gland. Okay, now, so this is the same thing we have discussed. Now, what is the effect of parasympathetic stimulation? If your parasympathetic nerves are stimulated, okay, mainly your parasympathetic nerves which is supplying your sublingual, submandibular, and parotid gland, they are seventh and ninth cranial nerve. Okay, so whenever parasympathetic stimulation, there is large amount of saliva. This is watery saliva because, as we have discussed, flow rate increases and formation also increases, and because ducts are you can say, as we have discussed, they are impermeable to water, so watery saliva is there. Fine. And ions cannot be absorbed because the flow rate is fast, so therefore there is watery saliva, high in the electrolytes. As I told you, ions cannot be absorbed, sodium and chloride. Proteins are low. Okay, now, what is the mechanism how the saliva secretion, as we have already discussed? I'll just explain you again. One more important thing here to and know that when parasympathetic nerves are stimulated, there is liberation of one enzyme known as kallikrein. Now this kallikrein, that is proteolytic enzyme. What is its action? It acts on the alpha 2 globulin, okay, which is converted in the interstitial fluid, and it forms bradykinin. Okay, and by this way it increases salivary secretion. Okay, that is one thing. Also, it releases vasoactive intestinal peptide, which also causes vasodilatation. So salivary secretion is increased by two mechanisms. Number one, that is transport processes in the acinar and ductal cells increases, and second is vasodilatation of the blood vessels of the salivary gland. Okay, so these are the two ways. Next, very important thing here is, you can see this is the acinar cell. This is, you can see this is the acini, this one. So this is the acinar cell, this one. This is one cell here. Okay, so these acinar cells, they have acetylcholine receptor. You can see here. This, as I told you, muscarinic receptors are present. And this receptors, when acetylcholine binds with the receptor, there is release or there is activation of second messenger inositol triphosphate. Okay, and that increases calcium ion. Okay, and therefore you can say that anticholinergic drugs like atropine is given, this effect is blocked, so the person is having dry mouth if atropine is given. Okay, I'll just show you the same thing here. So these are your acetylcholine muscarinic receptors. They act through second messenger system, inositol triphosphate, and increases the calcium ions. Fine. Sympathetic fibers. Now sympathetic controls how sympathetic nerves, they regulate the salivary secretion. This sympathetic stimulation, they cause these fibers, first of all, they originate from T1 and T2, lateral horn of the T1 T2. Okay, and these fibers, they pass through the paravertebral chain of the ganglia, sympathetic chain of ganglia, and then they supply, you can see here, salivary glands are supplied. Fine. Postganglionic fibers, they originate from this ganglion and they supply the this salivary glands. Fine. Now, when sympathetic fibers are stimulated, what happens? You can see here, sympathetic fibers, they act through alpha and beta receptors. Okay, and their function is they cause vasoconstriction in the sympathetic gland. So what happens? The secretion decreases. The secretion is thick, viscous, small amount. Okay, so these are alpha and beta, both the receptors, and they act through cyclic AMP second messenger system. Fine. You can see here, this is the same thing here. Now, applied aspect here, this is known as paralytic secretion. This is paralytic secretion. What is this? What is paralytic secretion? When this chorda tympani nerve, this was the experiment carried out by Claude Bernard. He cut the chorda tympani nerve. This is the parasympathetic nerve. This experiment was done on dog. You can cut the nerve in dog or cat. So what happens when this nerve is cut? Then the secretion of saliva becomes scanty, small amount, thin and turbid. This secretion increases initially, reaches to the peak on the seventh day. So the secretion is like this, increases, then reaches to the peak. It remains at the peak for 3 weeks, then it decreases. Okay, and this type of secretion is known as paralytic secretion. So this is reduced later on after 3 weeks. Okay, sometimes the sensitivity of the gland increases, sensitivity of the gland to the adrenaline increases, so the secretion may increase. Okay, so initially secretion increases, remains steady for 3 weeks, and then it decreases. Fine. So this is all about our today's topic, phases of salivary secretion. Okay, again the same announcement, if you wish to get all my notes, you can download the application Vesalius and you can subscribe for the same. And second thing, you can also order my book that is on the Flipkart as well as on the Amazon. Link for all my application and my books, they all are given in the description box. Okay, thank you so much. If you like my video, you can like it, you can share with all your friends and subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. Okay, so that whenever I'm online you can get the notification. Thank you so much.